Well, in this week's Oklahoma Standard, we recognize an organization that turns 100 this year. The Cooperative Extension Service in the United States is marking its 100th anniversary. And in Oklahoma, they're celebrating with a trip back in time. As Lyndall Stout shows us, in the early days of Extension, agricultural agents traveled by train in order to get important information out to producers and farm families.
A day of nostalgia for the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service, perhaps even the whole state, when one really considers 100 years of serving farmers, families, and entire communities. To mark the occasion, Extension went back to its roots on the railroad.
Extension always has to use the technology that's available, and back in those days, the quickest way to get around the state and to carry some of the equipment and demonstrations that we had was to use a train, and the train companies cooperated with that because agriculture was one of their big customers, and so they allowed free passage on the trains.
Extension agents would ride those trains in the early 1900s, and when they would arrive, at times hundreds of people would be on hand to get the latest information from the USDA and from what was then Oklahoma A&M College, often called a county fair on wheels.
It was a big deal. In fact, they say lots of times they shut down the courthouse and the school and the post office and everything, and just shut the town down for a couple hours, and everybody went down to the depot where the train came in and stood around and waited for the program that the Extension folks were delivering.
So when the train rolled into the Rock and Rail Yard at Wellston recently,
this laboratory on wheels contains all the latest and greatest in early 20th century family living and farming techniques.
That's what today's Extension educators from across Oklahoma recreated in a native pecan grove. Educational lessons for everyone, from livestock and crops to gardening and insects, home and family to 4-H, and much more. The vintage mixed in with the most modern day, all to show the impact and reach of Extension through the years, and also what lies ahead.
What we're wanting to do here is just really help kids understand how technology is going to be driving a lot of our careers in the future, especially in natural resources.
And did someone say food?
Molten lava chocolate cake and deluxe potatoes with a crispy topping that are like twice baked potatoes. They're just yummy.
Dutch oven cooking, just like the early days.
They last forever. They're seasoned like Teflon if you take care of them, and they hold the heat a long time. And Martha Washington even mentioned them in her will and specified who hers went to. So they've been valued by people who cook in the outdoors, particularly for a long time. Really a revitalization of people liking to learn this skill. And we're teaching a lot of kids to do this now with the outdoor 4-H projects.
Speaking of the younger set, they're especially fascinated with the older ways. 12-year-old Hannah Thompson sums it up best.
I'm going to tell my friends that I really had a fun day. It was really awesome. Just looking back at the past and seeing from the old days and seeing to the future that I might teach my grandkids.
And if the past century is an indicator, Cooperative Extension will be right there with Hannah and her friends, teaching, extending knowledge, and changing lives well into the future.
Extension Centennial celebrations are happening throughout the U.S. and across Oklahoma, honoring those 100 years of harnessing all the research and know-how of land-grant institutions like Oklahoma State University and using it to help people live the very best lives possible, which makes the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service this week's Oklahoma Standard.